Do I head to Columbus to play for the Ohio State Buckeyes, who have been an NFL wide receiver factory in recent years? Do I head to LA to play for the USC Trojans and embrace the SoCal Hollywood lifestyle? Or do I stay close to home to play for Oklahoma and listen to the band play Boomer Sooner 800 times a game? These were all incredible options, but I shocked everyone when I announced that I would be playing in Death Valley for Dabo Swinney and the Clemson Tigers. I was the fourth string wide receiver going into our massive Week 1 game against number 4 Georgia, and to my shock, Dabo gave me the nod as the starting kick returner. I stood on the sidelines completely blown away by the 80,000 screaming fans all around us and watched as our quarterback Hunter Johnson led the offense down the field on our first drive. I was just soaking in the game day atmosphere when all of a sudden our wide receiver John Williams stayed down with an injury after this catch over the middle, and Dabo Swinney told me to get in the game. My route was a simple slant and Hunter Johnson hit me perfectly in the hands, but I got popped by a linebacker who jarred the ball free, meaning I had dropped my first collegiate target. But boy did I bounce back quick, because on the very next play, I was on a post route to split the safeties, and Hunter Johnson threw me an absolute laser over the middle for the first touchdown of the game and of my career. After that, I spent most of the game watching from the sidelines, and with under 3 minutes remaining, Hunter Johnson was able to hit our All-American wide receiver Beau Collins to give us a 20-10 lead and send the Bulldogs packing. In week 2, we played in the rain against a random FCS school who I'd never heard of before, and for me it was mostly standing on the sidelines watching the offense work while also getting mostly manhandled on kickoff coverage. But in the fourth quarter, with the team up 34-0, Dabo let all the backups get some reps, and I was able to beat the man coverage on this in route to catch the second touchdown of my college career. Even though I only had 2 catches again, Dabo told me after the game that I had done well enough to challenge Joseph Nada for the third string receiver spot in practice this coming week. In my position battle at practice, I put an end to it before it could even get started, when on my very first rep, the ball was lobbed to me on a fade route, and I went up to moss the safety and then take it in for the touchdown. After my second touchdown, the battle was officially over, and I was now the third string receiver. After a bye week, in our week 4 game against NC State, I was determined to show the coaches I had what it took to be on the field for every snap. Late in the first quarter, even though I didn't have any catches yet, I still made a huge impact by returning this punt 48 yards for our offense to start with the ball in the red zone. Just a couple plays later, Hunter Johnson was able to hit Beau Collins on a touchdown over the middle to give us a 7-3 lead. Now, despite that lead, our offense struggled for most of the game, and with under 2 minutes left in the fourth quarter, we found ourselves in a tie game facing 3rd and 15. I was the wheel of our post-wheel route combo, and the safety bit super hard on the post, leaving me wide open for the 27-yard touchdown. I thought I was the hero of the game, but after our defense gave up a quick touchdown, we found ourselves desperately trying to get into field goal range before the time ran out. With just 4 seconds left from the 44-yard line, we had no choice but to throw a Hail Mary, and unbelievably, NC State ran a cover 1 defense, letting All-American Beau Collins get over the top to bring in the touchdown with 0 seconds remaining on the clock. It was a surreal win for our team, and I was on top of the world, having caught a touchdown in every single game of my college career so far. Unfortunately, I got COVID and missed our games against Wake Forest and Syracuse, but I was healthy again for our game against Boston College, which would prove to be a milestone game for me. Despite our offense not doing particularly well against Boston College's surprisingly stout defense, in the second quarter, I was able to shake off my defender and get open for a 25-yard catch to get us across midfield. Unfortunately, we couldn't convert that field position into points, and by late in the third quarter, it was still a 7-0 game. It felt like on every single route, I had 2 or 3 defenders covering me in all directions, when finally, on a 3rd and 5 from midfield, I was able to make another impact play by getting over the zone coverage on this crossing route and hauling in a beautiful ball from Hunter Johnson for a 39-yard gain. That resulted in a Will Shipley touchdown run, and after BC responded with a touchdown of their own, I caught another huge pass by splitting the safeties on this seam route to get us on the cusp of field goal range again. After feeding Will Shipley the ball to run down the clock, we secured the 14-7 win, and while I was beyond thrilled to have my first ever 100 receiving yard game, in the back of my mind, I couldn't help but be a little concerned by how much our team was struggling to score points. After my huge day against Boston College, I found myself in a position battle with John Williams for the second string receiver spot. Unfortunately, it was an extremely off day for Hunter Johnson, who struggled to make good reads or good throws, and even threw the ball straight into my head on this jet touch pass. Needless to say, I didn't win the position battle, but I was still having a magical year so far, and I was super pumped for our next game. This week we were taking on Florida State, once again playing on ESPN in primetime, but in the first half, it felt like our offense was folding under the pressure of the big stage. I couldn't hide my frustration after it felt like I kept getting open, but Hunter Johnson wasn't even looking in my direction. We kept having to settle for field goals, but on the sidelines in between drives, I told him to look my way because I was getting separation, and with 2 minutes left in the first half, he did exactly that, hitting me on a perfect strike over the middle for a 14-yard touchdown. Now in the fourth quarter, FSU was still hanging around when on the 2nd and 17 play, Dabo called for me to get a bubble screen. My teammates executed their blocks to perfection, and all of a sudden, I had 50 yards of green grass in front of me. I'm no track star, but I was fast enough to outrun one safety and then just barely break through the arm tackle of the other to take it all the way for a 73-yard touchdown. We won the game by a score of 26-14, and my insane day was enough to earn me player of the game honors and what I knew would be a game that I'd remember for the rest of my life. In week 9 on the road against Maryland, I picked up right where I left off last game, getting on the scoreboard twice in the first half, first on this out route and just barely keeping my toes in bounds, and then again when Maryland wasn't even remotely guarding the flat and Hunter Johnson hit me for the easy touchdown. Maryland kept the game close, but we got out of there with a 28-25 win, and after another great performance, I figured that Dabo had to move me up to being the second string receiver. But Dabo told me that no matter what I did in the game, the second string position had to be earned in practice. So I went into my next position battle with confidence, but that would quickly turn into major frustration. Despite Dabo saying that this was my chance to prove myself, he was calling wildcat plays where the running back was throwing to me, or calling screen plays we'd never practiced before that got me completely blown up. I didn't even come close to winning the position battle, but I knew that I had to put all that frustration aside because our team was still undefeated, and all I cared about at the end of the day was that we kept on winning. Our next game was on the road against Virginia, and despite only being 4-4, they gave us all that we could handle. Things got a little heated on the sidelines after Hunter Johnson threw this atrocious interception over the middle, and Dabo Swinney decided to bench me for the rest of the first half. My frustration only grew stronger when, with just 6 seconds left before halftime, Dabo had Hunter Johnson throw to the end zone instead of kicking the field goal. By the end of the play, time had expired, meaning instead of taking our easy points, we had come away empty-handed. The offense wasn't much better in the second half, but I was able to get some open space on this crossing route, which eventually led to a field goal. That was it for the scoring though, and as we ran out the clock in the fourth quarter, we all knew that if we didn't get our offense figured out, it was only a matter of time before it would all fall apart on us. Now the next part of our schedule fortunately was a breeze as we cruised past 1-8 Georgia Tech and an FCS team who was apparently playing 3 games a week, which I think is against NCAA rules, but I do appreciate how much they love football. During this time, I did finally win my position battle against John Williams, making me officially a second stringer, meaning I'd finally get to be on the field for a decent number of snaps. The energy in practice was electric because with just 1 week left in the regular season, we were sitting at 11-0 and held the number 2 spot in the college football playoff rankings. For rivalry week, our game was on the road against South Carolina, and this was without a doubt my least favorite place I had ever played. I hated their colors, I hated their fans, and I couldn't understand why they had so many chants about Cox, so I just wanted to get a win and get the hell out of there. Unfortunately, this was the worst our offense had played all year, and late in the first half when we were down 3-0, Hunter Johnson threw an awful interception in our own territory. That set up a Spencer Rattler touchdown pass, giving South Carolina a 10-0 lead heading into halftime. After composing ourselves at halftime, we put together a solid drive that ended with a Bo Collins touchdown to make it a 3-point game, but by late in the third quarter, we were down 9 points and I still didn't have a single catch. Dabo decided to roll the dice and go for it on 4th and 6 instead of kicking the field goal to make it a 1-score game, and I was able to fight off the press coverage to find open space on the slant to convert the first down. Will Shipley punched in a rushing touchdown on the next play, and after our defense immediately forced a turnover, we were able to kick a field goal to take a 1-point lead with just 2 minutes remaining. The defense came up clutch once again with a 4th down sack on Spencer Rattler, and another rushing touchdown helped us come away with a 24-16 win. That clutch 4th down catch was my only reception of the entire game, and I couldn't help but feel like I should be more involved in the offense. The ACC championship game was in Charlotte against the number 12 ranked Virginia Tech Hokies, and this is the game that made it extremely clear to everyone that I was in Dabo's doghouse. Maybe it's because of how frustrated I had gotten during the position battle, or maybe it's because I was so vocal about the fact that his questionable play calling was hurting the offense, but whatever the reason was, he did not want me to play in this game. In the first half, I had 2 catches for 16 yards, including this huge conversion on 3rd and 12 that set us up for an easy field goal, but that was it for me. I spent the rest of the game standing on the sidelines, and while I was super happy happy to see Hunter Johnson hit Bo Collins on this massive 80-yard touchdown pass in the third quarter, and then see our defense slam the door shut on Virginia Tech's money drive to clinch the ACC title. The celebration was a little bittersweet because I wanted so badly to be out there on the field with my teammates. By closing out the regular season with a perfect 13-0 record, we were ranked number 2 in the college football playoffs. After easily taking down Iowa State in the semifinals, we headed to the Rose Bowl in Pasadena, California to face the Florida Gators in a 1-versus-2 showdown for the national championship. Apparently, they had contracted out the end zone painting to a local abstract artist. I wasn't a big fan of it, but maybe it's too sophisticated for me to understand. The offense got off to a decent start in terms of moving the ball, but on each of our first 2 drives, we stalled out in the red zone and had to settle for field goals. In the second half, we stalled out yet again in the red zone, but at least kicking a field goal made it just a 1-score game and kept our hopes alive of making the comeback. Florida kicked a field goal late on their next drive to once again make it a 2-score game, and needing points quick, we marched down the field yet again. But on 3rd and 8, with just 3 minutes remaining in the fourth quarter, Hunter Johnson made his worst decision of the entire season, throwing an interception that got returned all the way to the 16-yard line, and just 2 plays later, Trevor Etienne punched in the touchdown to secure the win for the Gators. I had to give major props to Florida because they were clearly the better team that day, but as I looked at my stat line and realized that in the 3 biggest games of the year, I had recorded a combined 6 catches and no touchdowns, I couldn't help but start to wonder if there might be another program out there that was willing to help me reach my full potential.